What's up, everybody? So the drywall mud is almost done. Homie's finishing it in the background. And now this video is going to be trim and paint. So we are going to cut down all the plywood we are using for trim. We're going to talk about why we went with plywood. We are going to paint the walls, prep the wood, paint and prime the wood, and talk about all of that and break down cost. While I rip down this plywood, let's talk about why I went with plywood. So there are three basic classifications of wood: hardwood, softwood, and plywood. Hardwood is a harder wood. An example of this is maple. Softwood, still solid wood, but softer wood. An example of this is pine. And plywood is what I'm cutting down in this video. Let's take the baseboards in my garage, for example. They are 6 inches high, and I needed about 75 linear foot of baseboard. To do this in a hardwood like maple, it would cost me approximately $300. To do this in a softwood like pine, it would cost me approximately $200. To do this in sheets of plywood, ripping them down myself, cost me $50, and I have more than half a sheet of plywood left over when I'm done trimming the baseboard. This also applies to the beams I made, the window trim, and the door trim. You could also get a higher grade of plywood or thinner plywood. I didn't want to go with the thinner plywood because I like the thickness of this plywood, and I also didn't care to spend the money on a higher grade plywood because I knew I would be painting this. If I was just staining this, I might have chosen to go a different route, such as hardwood, softwood, or even a higher grade of plywood. But with the paint, I am perfectly happy with how this is turning out. Now that the pieces are ripped down to size, we need to cut them down the length, and we're going to use the miter saw for that. Break from trim, we got the walls done, we got the floors done. We're finally ready to paint the trim and hang it up. So, first thing I'm going to do is go through all this trim, sort it out. I'm going to walk you guys through what all I have cut. So over here is the baseboard, over here are the beams and the other pieces. Glue all of these together, these need to dry, these can start getting primed, then hopefully prime this, paint, hang them up. We have everything all laid out. So, all the pieces for the baseboard are here. I have them numbered so I know what order they go in. We have them marked where the top's at, and then I have the front and the back marked with different arrows so I know which side I need to paint. So these are all on the back side. I need to flip them over, and then I won't have to paint or prime the back side. I'll just prime this and the corners, and then I'll paint over it all. They'll all be in order, and then I'll still have the number on the back to put them along the wall. So the same way, we have all the trim for the window. So the window pieces are marked right here, the door frame to the back door here, the closet door frame here. Then we get to the fun stuff, which are the beams. So for the beams, they're all put together, they've all been test fit, and what that means is that we've put some screws in here to hold them where they need to be, and then we've also put them up along the walls. So there's going to be the closet beam right there, there's going to be the entryway beams right there, and then there's going to be the door casing beams up at the top. 5 total. We have this one for the closet, this one for the left side of the entryway, this one for the right side of the entryway, and then these are for the door sill frame. The trim for the baseboard and the trim for around the doors, they're easy. We're going to prime and paint them while they're off, and then we'll put them on because they're just one piece of wood. These other ones are a little bit more complicated, where we have brackets that they're actually going to mount to, and because they're brackets and it's such a tight fit, if we put them together beforehand, we're never going to get them on here. So for those ones, we're going to assemble, we're going to glue, we're going to finish them all up, and then we're going to paint them last, whereas the other ones, we're going to paint them first, and then we're going to put them against the wall. Next steps on this is not just putting back in the screws and putting them up, we need to apply wood glue. So I'm going to use some liquid nail glue, and what that does is the screws aren't really going to be what's holding this together, it's going to be the wood glue. It's just going to create one line of solid contact between the two pieces of wood, and also where we mount them to, so it should be very structurally sound. So I'm going to get to that. we have all the beams put together and secured in place. So let's check them out. Alright, so all the beams are intentionally hovering over the floor. That's so whenever we have water on the floor, it doesn't seep up through the beam and then get into the beam. Other than that, we have them all secured. We have everything glued in place. We have all the pieces glued together, them glued against the braces if we needed to. We have them all secured in place and tacked up, so they're not going anywhere. There's this one for the corner of the closet, these two for the entranceway, and then these will all get painted black, so they're gonna kind of blend in to the background. But you can see the top beam up there, and then if we go up here, we have the two beams up here in the cross brace. We are almost ready for primer. We have all the pieces laid out, but before we're gonna do that, we're gonna actually put the caulking on here to seal everything up so it looks nice and flush, and then we'll be able to prime over top of that, tape everything off. So we'll end up putting the caulk over here, priming all the pieces, then coming back and taping off, priming, and then letting it dry and paint. This is what I'll be using. The important part about this is it needs to be paintable. This one's cool because you can paint it in 20 minutes, but if you get the type that isn't paintable, whenever you put the caulking down, then whenever you try and go back over it and paint on it, the paint's not really gonna stick to it. Beams behind me are painted, all 5 of them. All the trim is painted. Now we just have to hang it up. And this is the end of the trim video. We also installed the outlet covers and the recessed lighting covers as well, but the main point of this was the trim. So, I talked about earlier in the video, I went this route because it allowed for more customization and it was cheaper. Let's talk about that. How much did this cost? To complete all the trim, including door trim, baseboards, and building the beams, I needed 4 sheets of plywood, so that brings me in at $120. I also needed the brad nails to affix them to the wall, so that was another $20. In my case, I used leftover paint, so there was no additional cost for me to paint the trim. If you were going to do it yourself, you might need a quart of paint and a quart of primer if you were going in primer, so I would say for you it would be an additional $20 to $100. Overall, since I just needed the plywood and the nails, it brought my total cost in around $150 for trim for the doors, the baseboard, and to build the beams going in the entryway. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed me doing the project. Make sure you subscribe for notifications when new videos come out. See you next one.